for showing up for another episode of Crypto Normal Encounters with B Moss. Thank you all so much for showing up. Tonight, I've brought back a special guest by the name of Ron Morehead, and I'm sure most of you already know who Ron Morehead is. He is the author of the book Quantum Bigfoot, as well as several other books that he's written as well. He's a great researcher, and he is also probably best known for Sierra Sounds. I'm gonna have Ron to come from backstage here shortly in just a second. But Marquetta, thank you for showing up. Primal Cry 86, thank y'all for showing up. I'm gonna try to decide about getting shows started back again, or whether to just kind of leave them. It's just so much going on in the cryptid community nowadays that I feel like sometimes it's best just to kind of steer away from being in the spotlight and the scenes and stuff for a while, just to kind of give yourself a break. But I feel like right now I'm excited, I'm pumped, I'm amped up, and I really would like for you guys to enjoy this guest tonight. I'm hoping to get you guys on here to be able to tonight after Ron through talking, to be able to get your questions in. So any questions y'all have, make sure y'all put them in the chat. And when you put them in the chat, make sure to put the questions in all caps. Marquetta, if you're back out there. And Primal Cry, I've made you a mod too. If you could just make sure to let other people in the other groups and stuff like that you are part of, and your group and all that good stuff, let everybody know that we're live. Hey, Melvin Harrison, thank you for showing up. Melvin, if you don't mind, let people know that we're live right now. I'm getting ready to bring Ron from backstage now, guys. So Ron, if you don't mind, you can come from backstage now and join us on screen. And we're going to get right into it. I'm going to let Ron give
How's
y'all.
that?
That's great. Thank you, Ron. Thank you for coming back on the show. Ron, I already know who you are, but can you tell everybody, just give everybody a brief bio, tell them who you are, all that good stuff, and then we'll just go from there.
Well, I'm just a guy. I encountered these beings called Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call them, that had a big foot and a big voice, but in the Sierra Mountains of California in 1971. And what makes my story different is we've had these sounds studied by science and by cryptolinguists. And anyway, it was started with me in 71 when I went up to the camp when one of the guys got scared off and he wouldn't go back to check on the others. And but I was friends with them all, so he asked me if I'd go with him because the wives were worried. And so anyway, that's how I got involved with this group. There's only 5 of us, and was 6, but this one guy wouldn't go back after he got scared off. So anyway, that's the Sierra Sounds, and we recorded them. Started going back several times. Started taking tape recorders, cassette recorders with us, and it's 8 miles in the wilderness, 8,400 feet in elevation. Very imposing area to get to, but once you get there, it's really nice. And we enjoyed being there. And the camp had been occupied by the Johnson brothers since 1958. And it wasn't until 71 when I went in with Donald, the guy that wouldn't go back without somebody. So it's been exciting. I had no idea it would bring me to this stage in my life to be on these programs and doing this. But it's fun. I enjoy it because it's taken me a full circle into other realms of area of unknowns.
So Ron, you was in the Sierra Mountains. What state is the Sierra Mountains? What state are you in? Post that in.
It was in California. Sierra Nevada Mountains are in California. The mountain range that kind of goes between California and Nevada.
Okay. So when you were out there so that was when you initially started your research?
Well, after that, yeah, I was just a member of a big church with one of the guys that was going up there all the time, and we started going back as often as we could once we figured these things wasn't going to hurt us, or we didn't know. We always carried guns. Hunting camps, so you carried guns in a hunting camp. And, so anyway, he was, him and I were the packers. We packed the mules and supplies and horses and rode in and brought stuff we stored them in big barrels there, which had rings on them so the bears could not get them so easy.
How did you end up, so when you went out to the Sierra Mountains, you were already a Bigfoot researcher at that point when you went out there?
Not at all.
Okay,
Nobody was.
Okay. So that incident, like when you
We,
first went out there, that's what got you into this and continued your research to this day.
yeah, I was raised religiously, so I looked into giants in the Bible first. That's where I went to, the Nephilim and all that stuff. And I reached on back into ancient texts a little further and gone all the way back into cuneiform texts now, which is ancient Mesopotamian tablets that are found for the Sumerians. And anyway, it's been interesting, very interesting when you find out how that ancient text, cuneiform, how it matches with our biblical text in the Genesis about man's creation and where giants came from. Because I think I've concluded pretty much for myself anyway that in my last book, Bigfoot Unveiled, that these things have to have a human component to them. Get into that pretty thoroughly
Yes.
and how it works. And I can tell you about that right now if you want me to. Or you want to.
Well, yeah, I do. I do have a question, real quick. Well, no, yes, go right into that, and then I'll ask my question. I do want to hear about that. You said that you feel like they
Well,
have a
just
Well, I'm interested because you said
yeah.
that based on what you found out there, it kind of made you feel like that there was somewhat of a human component to them. So now it's got me curious: is what did you see? What made you feel that?
Well, it wasn't something I saw. It's something I researched. First of all,
Okay.
we got Professor Curlin, the University of Wyoming, who studied the sounds for a year. He's an electrical engineer, very high profile, written over 100 papers, very substantial. He studied the sounds for a year via Al Berry, who got him to him. Al Berry had a method. Al Berry's the guy we took in to look at it in 1972. And all of them thought it was a hoax, except Alan really wanted someone to take on the study of these sounds seriously, unbiasedly, tell if it's a fake or not, because he was looking for the fake. And Dr. Curlin said, no, it's not fake. They're real. There's no 60 cycle hum showing that would have been pre-recorded, re-recorded, or altered. There's no alteration in speed or anything like that. They're exactly what they sound like they are. And he showed where they were inside, above, and below human range, average human range. So we knew they were talking amongst themselves because you could hear the chattering back and forth, and we were recording that. And it wasn't until 2008 till Scott Nelson got a hold of it. And by the way, Dr. Curlin gave that report at Academia of the in Vancouver, BC, in 1976 or 78, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And in and he gave it to a group of academia who still couldn't get on board with these things having a vocal cord that could do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Most academia scientists got their minds made up. They don't research like scientists should, in our opinion, my opinion. But anyway, Dr. Curlin gave that report. He wrote it in a book. It's been for sale for now from UCB Press, 1980, and called Man Like Monsters on Trial. And his papers in there, and you can see the range. You can see what study he did and all that. But it wasn't until 2008 when Scott Nelson, cryptolinguist trained by the Navy to listen to unknown languages, unknown codes, see if it was a
Mm-hmm.
code or a language, and see if there's any mischievousness in it. And he came
Okay.
all the way out from Missouri, where he found him by accident on the internet, and he came all the way out from Missouri to interview myself and Al Berry and a couple others, and he asked if he could study him because he thought he heard language in it, and that's what he's trained to do. Two-time graduate of the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, very qualified, and
Yes.
had him vetted, got a letter from them and everything, and so that was good, but it still wasn't enough. Scott started talking with me at different places and saying, "Yeah, these things are." Well, then you find Dr. Lieberman at Brown University. This is what put it over for me. Dr. Lieberman says that he's a cognitive research scientist, studies the vocal mechanism, vocal vocalizations, and he said only humans have the vocal mechanism for language. Only humans. And when you put only humans in there, and he's firm. He studied the monkeys. He studied kinds of primates, trying to find out why humans have this special ability to speak like I'm speaking now. These things have that, and so
Mm-hmm.
they have a human component to them. That's the 3 bullet points that puts it together for me. because it represented, according to Dr.
Okay.
Curlin, the sounds compared to the human voice represented an animal over 8 foot tall. So when you put that in there, along with Scott Nelson, along with Dr. Philip Lieberman, and they have to have a human component. And that brings some of these DNA studies that's been poo-pooed down by scientists kind of in the spotlight, because they've been thumbs down by academia because they had a human component in it, so it must have been contaminated because nothing but humans can do that. Well, I think they're wrong. These things do that. At least what we encounter, the ones in the Sierra do.
What kind of testing was done, like outside of the, I guess, the audio range and stuff like that, the vocalizations and stuff that they made? I guess before I get into that, a better question would be, what were y'all doing? What were you doing at the time when you first got out there and you heard the vocalizations? Were y'all doing, like, I guess, trying to get them to make sounds, or were y'all calling out to them, or can you go into that?
Nothing. Just be still. Don't do anything. Just do what you're doing. That's what we were doing. It's a hunting camp, so the guys were hunting during season. During all season, we go up there just because it's such a nice place to go to once you get there. So we'd go there quite a bit. I went there as often as I could when I get somebody to go with me. I became part of the group then. And I've been chasing it ever since, 50 some odd years, and been pretty much around the world with it.
So that first night when you caught the audio, the first time you ever heard the samurai chatter, the vocalizations, were you afraid? Were you shocked? How did you feel in that moment? You were with other guys, so you weren't just out there alone, but did you already know what was making those sounds at that time?
Well, no, none of us knew. We just knew something big and strong and spooky. Well, we weren't, I wasn't so much afraid, because after I started going up there, and they still had not crashed in the shelter at us, because only started messing with us when we were inside that little shelter we had. And we all had guns, high-powered guns. You didn't go up there without a gun. And so you felt a little bit of safety behind that, and all of us did. But I doubt if that would have really stopped what was out there, because there was more than one. And it was just, you're standing around or sitting there in the shelter wondering if they're going to come through the walls or not. But after that, you kind of realize, they didn't come through the walls. We didn't have to shoot. So they kept coming back, taking what food we left out, and actually messing with us. I think they were trying to see what we'd do. That's what I think. I wasn't inside anyone's mind.
Did that occur, like, I guess the vocalizations, they went on all throughout the night, or what did you guys do? Like,
No.
How long after that night did you guys start doing research, or did you look into it? How did you know what to look into? Because you never heard anything like that before.
No, well, we looked into the Patterson film. We looked into other accounts of people seeing these things and all. But no, it went on for, an hour or two. Sometimes they'd have to stop the vocalization, stop talking to each other, and all of a sudden, during the night, you'd hear them tromping around. I would anyway. The other guys, if you could hear it over the other guys snoring.
Now, Ron, I've heard some vocalizations online, and some of them sound like what you would call like the samurai chatter. I've heard the one where you have, like, it sounds like a male or female with the samurai chatter arguing back and forth. And then there's the ones with these guttural growls, groans, moans, and grunts. And some of them sound terrifying, like to the point, but I'd be terrified to go back out there. After that night, can you go into some of the, I guess, further research that you've done and experiences, and just go into anything that you want to share with us on the Sierra Sounds? Because I want to dig into that.
Sure. Well, it was after that when I started looking into the Bible and looking into ancient texts to see where giants came from, because they're not supposed to be around anymore. And all of us are Christians up there. We were, wondering how this could be, because, but they're there. We saw their tracks, we heard their voices, and later on we started seeing glimpses of them. I saw the one that I recorded that night with the samurai they called it. Actually, Matt Moneymaker from BFRO.org.
Yes.
I think it's org, yeah. He coined that when he heard it in 1995, and that's when he started the BFRO. He put, so that's the night I interacted with them. We're outside the shelter, which was very unusual. In fact, it hadn't happened before like that. just me and one other guy, Bill, my friend Bill. We packed supplies in. We were there, and they came in, and actually they were already there when we got there. I got evidence of that too, so we know that to be true. So anyway, they started popping their rocks and whooping sounds and beating on trees, things like that. But I think it's a code to the other ones, and I think that's how they communicate before they start chattering. And they want to see again what your response is going to be. By 1974, when I recorded the samurai chatter, we'd already kind of got used to them, got anticipating them maybe. And but again, they started doing all this snap popping and cracking while we're outside the shelter. And we talked about maybe do we want to get inside, get out of here? And I said no, no, we want to stay out here. There's just two of us there. I felt probably pretty secure with just the two of us. And we weren't thinking about shooting at them, that's for sure. And we just wanted to learn more about them. I started my research pretty much from there on. I started wondering and looking and delving into this stuff. So I've been into Bolivia and Moscow, Siberia, Nepal, pretty much all over trying to find out more about this enigma that's going on all over the world.
And you said you got to dig in. You said you got to looking into the ancient texts, the Nephilim and stuff like the giants. Can you tell us what made you, after seeing what you saw and hearing what you heard, what made you decide to divert to that? What made you say, well, you know what, let me look into this because maybe this is a possibility for this? What was it that made you check out that arena, that avenue?
Well, I was kind of a Bible student. I knew verses. I knew how giants were in the Bible. And I thought, well, could they still be around? How they could have made it through the flood? Everything supposedly got taken away during the flood except for Noah and his kids, right? Well, I found that's probably not true. Yeah. These things may have went underground, some of them. Or who knows, maybe one of Noah's son's wives had a recessive gene for the Nephilim. There's a lot of crossbreeding going on with the fallen ones from the Bible into humanity, changing the genome and trying to disrupt humans. And that went on for a long time. And that, if you look into the cuneiform text, which is the oldest, 3400 BCE, I think, is when they were written for the Sumerians. And they talk about these powerful ones from the sky. And talk about how they could come down and do things. They call them powerful ones, the shining ones. Even Satan was called the shining one in the Bible. So they are bright. They are light beings. I believe they're from the ninth dimension. They're not all bad, but some of them were bad. And they were doing bad things. That's what gave us, I think, our warring demeanor here on this planet today. Because the negative ones kind of influenced that and seeded the warring element within humanity.
When you said, can you explain, can you elaborate on that, the warring in humanity? I'm sorry.
Well, we're warring species. We've always been.
Yes.
People want to fight. And that's really not what we're made to be. We're made to be ninth dimensional beings, I believe. And we're made to be like the Anunnaki, but the good ones. And we were here on Earth for experiences, trying to do the right thing and see what it takes to get out of this third dimensional, third density environment that we live in. We're all going to get out of it. Our bodies are, but our ethereal part, our spiritual part will live on. And according to quantum physics, energy, which we're all made of, cannot die. And religion says you go to heaven, and physicists will say you just change forms. Well, to me, quantum physics and spirituality are synonymous. Religion messes it up sometimes, but spirituality, we all have, we all are.
I just want to say, as a Christian, like, and I just want to let people also know in the chat, like, I'm a person who, when I do a show, like, whether I agree with everything a guest says or not, I can still respect and appreciate the research. I can still appreciate and respect the theory or the thought process on different things. Like, nobody out there has like the direct answers. We're all looking for the answers. Some people like Ron has a lot more information. He's got out there. He's done the research. He's done audio recordings. There's people like Melba Ketchum, Scott Carpenter, and probably several others that I'm probably not even aware of, who have gotten DNA evidence and stuff like that. So you're going to have different people that have different experiences when it comes to Bigfoot, dogman, and other cryptids. And a lot of these things that we're going into, and I'm kind of just trying to chop it up and break it down for y'all, but we're going to keep going into this with Ron. And I just want to let you guys know that at the end of the day, when it comes down to whatever the theory is, whether they are, we say like the woo factor, where the voices, or the hearing them, or them following you home, or the mind speak, or cloaking and stuff like that. Well, you have another group of people who believe that they're straight up only flesh and blood creatures. But there's different avenues to this, because just because when one person saw them and they seen them only doing flesh and blood things, or like natural animals, then there's somebody else who had a totally other experience that saw them manifest or materialize in front of them, or cloak, or what I like to call the predator effect. You'll have footprints that go through the woods and stuff like that, and you'll see those disappear. So when we're talking about this, I want to make sure you guys that are in the audience watching, like when it's Ron on here, anybody, each show that we do, everybody's going to come on, and from every person that you hear on the show, everybody has a bits and pieces of what we're all out there trying to discover, and we're all trying to learn about these things. So don't feel like we're trying to push anything on you. This is your choice. You listen to what you hear. Everybody's experiences are different. Some may be similar to others, but at the end of the day, these are all things that we should be putting together and bring together these different factors to try to make sense of what is really going on out there and why is there a cover up with this. But I'm not going to divert off. I'm going to let Ron get back into it, because he was talking about the ancient texts, and he was saying the shining ones. What group? Because I'm going to get deep into you with that, because I've heard the shining ones for some reason. And I know some of the ancient tribes, like in Africa, they talk about the Nagas, or they talk about the shining ones, or the serpent guys, or whatever. And you had mentioned the Bible earlier in ancient texts, the giants. And we know that in Genesis 6, that's where it talks about the giants. And some different books in the Bible, it'll talk about the giants were on the earth in those days. But some versions say the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. And so we have this thing where we're trying to figure out, like, what are these things? What do they do? What are they here for? Does the Bible bring them up? And it does, but it only leaves it to like a certain extent. And then when you get outside of the Bible and get into the extra biblical books, like Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, the Book of Giants, and a few other books that are out there, and ancient texts too, then that's when you start to find that several cultures all throughout the world were in some type of, I don't know, they were around them. Do you agree? Do you feel like other people throughout the world, also ancient cultures, were seeing these things for thousands of years, Ron, before we ever seen them? What are your thoughts on that?
They have. Yeah. Well, they've been part of a record for a lot of cultures over the years. And the Nephilim, they were what the fallen ones, which were the Watchers, supposedly, who went against the will of God and came down and started intermingling with humanity, and started intermingling with, messing with the genome of different species on this planet. They were not supposed to do that, and they did it. They became third density people like we are, and started messing with humanity and impregnating human women, and that made the Nephilim, because they created giants by doing that. And they are advanced technologically advanced race of beings. So anyway, that's been going on for eons. I mean, we're talking about eons. We're not talking about a few thousand years. We're talking about a few million years, probably. This planet has been visited by aliens. Excuse me. And I think everybody out there agrees with me that aliens are part of something that exists. And they've been coming to this planet. They all want this planet. This planet's the jewel of the solar system. It's got everything. And some of them are warring with each other over this planet. They're not supposed to interfere with us.
Do you feel, Ron, like that you were saying, like when they came down and they came and took wives of human women and stuff like that, some people who listen like may not understand, like where those of us who are Christian, we may call it the Nephilim or the giants or the fallen angels. And then outside of that, like if you watch the History Channel, they will call it aliens or ancient aliens or the Anunnaki even. Um, do you feel like I've talked to Jack Carey before, not in person or over video chat, but I've messaged him before, and we kind of chatted back and forth about it, and he did feel that they were inter- interchangeable. I think there's differences in what the beliefs are as far as the Anunnaki are concerned. But I had a question at one point in time where I felt like the Bible mentions, I think in the book of Numbers 13:33, when Moses sent the spies
Right.
over to spy the land, they came back and they said there were giants in that land. The giants there were so big that we were as grasshoppers in their sight and also in our own sight. They said we also saw the sons of Anak there. And I always took that, and I know like different forms, like of different languages and different. You might have Greek, and they might call, I think an Egyptian like Anubis was also Anpu or Inpu, and different other names and different other cultures called different gods, different things. So, and I wondered, the sons of Anak were giants, as I hear the Anunnaki are giants, and I don't know what all was said about the Anunnaki when they came here, but we do know, like, I guess as far as the book of Enoch is concerned, it goes further in depth into breaking down and explaining, Ron, how they weren't only just coming into the human women, they were also creating hybrids also with animals as well. And I feel like some of the things like dogman that we see, or some of these other weird creatures, I guess, like some people call it the rake and some people call them crawlers. I feel like that they're being created by these creatures. Do you feel like that not only did they come down and procreate with humans, they procreated with animals too, and that's why we're seeing all these different
Yeah, you're
variations
cutting
or
out.
what are your thoughts on that?
I'm only hearing half of what you're saying. Yeah. Well, here's my thoughts. I caught most of what you're saying, but some of it's cutting out. I think the Anunnaki and the fallen ones from the Bible are the same. Okay. The Anunnaki, that's a fact, by the way. There's over 10,000 clay tablets with that language written down before the Sumerians took it. That's why the Sumerians were such an advanced race, because they were given knowledge of how to do a lot of things. That's what kickstarted the humans. But they were able to build a lot of things and do a lot of things that are very strange to us today, and we're finding remnants of it all over the world, really. Go back to Tempe, they found more and more things like that around over in that area. Same. But the Anunnaki, as far as the first part of your statement there, and fallen ones, I believe, are the same. That's where, if you read the cuneiform texts, and which they've interpreted those now in the 1800s, there's over 10,000 of them, and there's just a lot of information in there that just correlates with biblical texts. A lot of things in the Bible over eons of time. I say eons, I should say hundreds of years, not eons. From different leadership has been changed and manipulated to hold the narrative for the king or the powers in charge. Whoever's in charge is going to control the narrative of what they want. Whether it's St. Constantine in 3,326 or King James in 1611, they all have those 36 scholars that King James had. They all have their parameters set. We've all been trained with the conditioning in our heads. This is right and this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So much really good stuff in the Bible, though. It really is, and I don't discourage anybody from looking at that, but you should look deeper. And the deeper I look, the more I find. But you really need to get into the cuneiform text to find the first written language, which a lot of those things, even Hebrew, has a core coming from that. And those languages that came through, written languages, are from the core of cuneiform texts. So that's kind of something to know. And it's not up in the air for grabs. It's out there for anybody to look at.
What was in some of those cuneiform texts that you feel like stands out as far as what you're telling us right now? Because I will look
Humanity. Bigfoots, a lot of them were created prior to Homo sapiens, and they were created to do work. And Homo sapiens were created sometime after that, and they made them in their image because of what they made before, which was the workers, wasn't panning out. So they made us in their image, and that's what we're designed to be like. The Shining Ones were designed to be ninth dimensional beings. That's my opinion. And all this stuff, people can take it or leave it. It's just what I came up with in my studies and my experiences around these things, because we knew there was something special going on with them, something special about them, because we couldn't fool them. If you're trying to fool them, they say they have to step ahead of you up there at the camp. We never could get a picture of one, even though we tried several times. But we did record their vocalizations.
Okay. In a second, yes, Ron. I do want to go into the pictures. You were saying something a few minutes ago. You said the Bigfoots were here before Homo sapiens. And have you ever heard of Lloyd Pye?
Oh yeah, I spoke with him one time in 1995, I think it was.
Did he not say, and I might be wrong about this, you correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he say that, I remember I've seen him on a video on YouTube, it's called Everything You Know Is Wrong. And I believe, and like I said, I might be wrong about this, he said that Bigfoot was the missing link. Or was it another? Go ahead.
If you're gonna go by Darwinism, you could say he's a missing link, because Darwin didn't have that in his chain of how we derived from monkeys. So, and I just seen a note there where it says the Anunnaki are from multiple star races. That's true. They're all over the universe, and they're very creative beings. The bad ones stayed here, took a third density, and started messing with this Earth, and seeded us as a warring species. We have to get out of that.
Okay.
Anyway, let's keep going. And just ask me anything you want to ask me. I'll tell you what I think. There's things I know, and there's things I don't know. There's things I think I know.
Y'all get y'all's questions ready for Ron. Put them in the chat, and everybody who's out there watching right now, like y'all, that's moderators, and everybody else that's not moderators, y'all make sure y'all encourage everybody to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and let everybody know. Greet everybody as they come in, and also let everybody know when they put their questions up. Put them in all caps so they're easier for me to recognize. Ron, I do want to ask you too. You were digging into it. You were digging into this, and you were finding the correlation between the giants and the giants and Bigfoot and stuff like that. Now, I've also heard like there's some people who have actually seen the ones that are not covered in hair, like I guess the giant of Kandahar that L.A. Marzulli saw he didn't see it. He interviewed the soldiers about it over there in Afghanistan. I forget what the actual name of the place was.
Yes.
But
yes.
There's some of those here in the United States that have been spotted, I guess, from the 1700s all the way up to when some of the early explorers and stuff like that came here too. So do we have different variations of the different types of giants and species of the Nephilim that were here? Do you feel, or because I'm not going to.
I believe so.
It kind of all goes together.
Well, first of all, several different types of aliens have been on this planet. I think a lot of them have messed with the genome of different species. So it depends on how they planted what in the DNA. It depends on what the agenda is for them. And that's what I believe. So yeah, there's different types of these things, different types of, everybody wants to put Bigfoot in one basket over here. Well, no, they shouldn't be. I mean, I've been all over the world looking at what different people have to say and what their take is on the attributes that they've encountered with these beings. So anyway, it's quite intriguing when you start looking into it, and it's taken over my life. That's all I do nowadays.
It's very intriguing. Well, Ron, so you were talking a few minutes ago, and y'all, I am scrolling, and I'm talking to Ron at the same time as I'm scrolling and getting y'all's questions. So make sure, like, and for those of y'all I didn't speak to once I came in, just know I'm greeting all of y'all now, but I want to keep on this tonight because we got an amazing guest, and I'm so excited that he came back. Guys, Ron, I want to ask basically when it comes down to these things too, because one thing we do know is that one thing you said a few minutes ago, and I've had some experiences with this. I've never seen Bigfoot, I've seen videos and pictures and stuff like that, and I even have some pictures on on my laptop and on my other phone, where my ex-husband, who used to go hunting all the time, he brought back a couple of pictures, and it definitely had Bigfoot in two of those pictures. And one, I've heard of something called a grass man, which I could only possibly call a grass man, or whatever the third thing was on another picture was covered in moss. But what I was going to ask you, you said something about the pictures a few minutes ago, and you said that you could never capture a picture of them. Now, have you captured them somewhat, but they were somewhat of a blur, or did it seem like they kind of meshed in, or you just weren't able to capture them at all? Because I know that sometimes pictures can get, it's crazy when it comes to pictures and
Yeah,
Bigfoot and dog.
we lost 3 cameras up there, which had been strapped to a tree 6 foot high with a thread, so we trigger it. And we set up in the daytime, but at night when they come in, and early evening, they would go around the trap. And the times that they did hit the trap, they knocked the camera off. And one time we got a picture of just a hairy blob, but you don't know what it is. You don't see a face or nothing, but something with a lot of hair. So it could have been a bear, reaching up or something. I don't know. But
it came up blurry, I'm sure. And
no,
a lot.
well, it was no. Well, it wasn't blurry, but it was just a hairy something. But we didn't know if it was a bear or what.
I'm gonna take another question, Ron, and before I take this question, I do know what you're saying about that. I've gotten a couple of pictures ever where it was a blur, and it seemed like that. I know one time I was back in the woods when after I first had that first initial dogman encounter and sighting, I went back further into those woods with probably about 5 or 6 other people, and when you're going through the woods in the summertime, you're going to get caught up in those briars and stuff like that, where it's hard to escape from those. And this is in the wintertime, I had on a hoodie. So I'm walking the briars. I'm 5'2", so I'm short. So the briars were taller than me. And so one of the briars gets caught up in my hoodie, which I had over my head. And I'm screaming because at the same time I'm scared because I know dogmen are back there. And I'm screaming. I'm like, come over here, please get me a loose from this. I just felt an energy around me. But at the same time, I didn't know that my the screen was still on. So I was snapping pictures at the same time while they were trying to free my hoodie and my clothes from these briars. Went back and looked at it after the fact, and there's something red and furry, like right there, like in front of my face, like as if it's watching while they're trying to free me from these briars. And at the same time, I had also started to panic because I heard something kind of huff. When I say huff, you know how like a horse makes that huffing. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I'm talking about? How horses do sometimes. Yes. They make that huffing. I heard that. Nobody else heard it, but I heard it, and I'm like, please hurry up. Something's over here. So they finally got me loose. But I do have a question about it. What do you think it is? And I'm going to put another question on the screen, but what do you think it is that causes this when it comes to pictures, not just from you, but from researchers when you're taking pictures of these things?
Well, first of all, a camera will pick up different frequencies than what our eyes will. Our eyes only see within 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our light frequency. And everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. We, at our most minute level, are energy, vibrating at a frequency. And Einstein said, you find that frequency, you can change matter. Well, somehow a camera eye lens will often pick up things that our eyes don't see. And that's what some people see, and some people can see energy, very few, but most people don't see outside that range that I just mentioned to you. How they disappear, and there is a science behind that. It's called antimatter, and it's very interesting to get into that because it gets into a lot of things. But the fun part is, this is fun. I found this out, how all these people have told me that they saw one disappear. Some of these people are very credible. I mean, until they say that, then you got to put them on the back burner, until you get some more stuff that kind of corroborates that. So, but if you get into 1933, Paul Dirac won the Nobel Prize for antimatter. That's the direct exchange between matter and energy. Energy and matter are interchangeable. Einstein had already suggested that prior to Paul Dirac, but anyway, that was established physically because you don't see energy, but you see matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was established physically at CERN in 2012, the Hadron Collider, when the two particles collided and created energy. And they could sense the energy, but they didn't see it. They knew it was there. So these things are energy, like we are energy. We're electrical beings, actually. And if you can get that, you might see them cloaking out of that. And that's what I've heard a lot of people say. Well, what that would do if they could change their matter and energy through frequency, and I believe they can through the vocal mechanism, they could probably create the frequency. We have no idea how expanded their local frequency is, but that would change their density, and they wouldn't leave tracks anymore. That's how they all of a sudden tracks disappeared. That happened to us one time up there, and I looked all over trying to find out where the trackways stopped. And my daughter had a sighting. We found the trackway, and it didn't jump up in a tree, didn't go to rocks, it didn't go into the brush. We couldn't see where it went. So that got me on a track trying to figure out how that could happen. Well, it happens through quantum science. And people just understood that quantum science is just another tool to work with. Once you understand it a little bit, you can help everybody. That's what I try to do, is bring in science and this stuff back together, because I mentioned earlier, if they're flesh and blood only, or if they're not. Well, they are flesh and blood when they're in our third density. And I mean, they have to eat, they poop, they procreate, they do all the things we do, and they can be shot in the third density. But when they step out of that through frequency vibration, I believe, they will apparently disappear. And that's energy, matter, interchangeable.
That's very interesting. When you say in the third density, is that kind of meaning like when they are more of a physical form, when they come into our dimension? Is that what that?
Yes.
And so they're able to go in and out of our. Do you feel like they're in our dimension all of the time, but they're able to, I guess, whatever you said, like, is there a first and second, third density? So there's a first and second density also. Then, I guess. So when they're in those other densities, are those dimensions that we're not able to perceive unless you have that, I guess, special gift to see into that?
Well, everything in this environment that we live in, that we're born into, is third density. It's easy to find one density is just a straight line, and you can look what the densities are. But you get out of our third density, you get into fourth density, which is a fourth dimension, which is called time. I believe that's where you go when this body fails you, and your ethereal part, your spiritual part, moves on, which can't die, according to science, according to religions. All those things say, nope, you're not going to die. You're going somewhere else. Of course, you got these atheists out here that don't believe that, but they don't believe science. They don't believe religion. They don't have a belief. But if you want to believe in something, believe in both of them. It does not have to be a separation between those people that say it's just flesh and blood only. Well, nothing is just flesh and blood only. Nothing is. So I get into that in my last book too, Bigfoot Unveiled, and where we have two parts to our embodiment. That's the physical part, and we have our ethereal part, the soul, the spirit, the consciousness, which goes on.
Absolutely.
That's the way it is. So anyway, it's fun looking into it.
We're just spiritual beings having a physical experience, and like you said, the spirit is eternal. So when your spirit leaves your body, it goes on to another dimension. And how you were saying, like a lot of atheists and stuff don't believe that. They've actually done research on where they've been able to record brain activity after a person's been pronounced clinically dead for more than 8 minutes or whatever, when they should be brain dead, but they come back and have a near-death experience and tell about it. They still have brain activity. They say they feel more real in the spirit form than they did when they were in the physical.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you, and I understand what you're saying there. Y'all, we got a great guest on tonight, and I know I didn't get to satisfy y'all last time, so I'm going to get y'all's questions now. I want to keep going. I could go forever, but I don't want to be selfish tonight. Ron on the screen right now, I think it's Keiju Ninja 1985 said, does Ron know? Can you read that, Ron?
I've just read it. Yeah. We went to Sierra Camp the last time in 2018. And I rode up there with David Paulides to do filming. He wanted to go up there. He's the only one I've ever taken up there to do something like this. And he put it out in the Missing 411, The Hunted. And I got about
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes in there where he interviewed me at the camp. And he recreated a light rod that we saw floating by our tent up there. The shelter's been taken down, so we took tents in. And that was strange. That was an anomaly because we've seen lights up there, had other strange things too. So nothing really surprises me up there, but you don't know what that's going to do. Just we watched it for several seconds till it went out of sight, and it was just going manipulating through the trees, and it had to be controlled. I mean, nothing just floats like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's strange. And that was the last time I've been up there, and it was on fire. A lot of places in the Sierras were on fire at the time. So we got out. It's smoky, but the mule team came in and pulled us out and got us out of there. But it took us there for 8 days.
They
Can
got a lot
Bigfoot
of good.
telepathically? How can I take a big? Well, you have to be in the right frequency, and that's basically it. I think they can talk to you telepathically if you're on the right frequency, or they either come to you or you come to them with that. But they're gonna either want to deal with you or not deal with you. I think the best way to do that is just get out in the woods and be still and try to clear your mind and see what comes to you, because we have a pineal gland inside our head which goes straight to your heart. Your heart has a brain, but your heart has to communicate with the thing sitting on your shoulders, and that's
Mhm.
been conditioned to believe certain things and not believe other things. So you need to go by your heart's feelings, and not what your brain's trying to talk you out of sometimes. Uh, did I answer that question? Can they
Yes,
talk
you did.
telepathically? Yeah, I've never had that because I'm too analytical. I'm up there, we're all trying to figure this out. We think we're smart guys, so we're up there trying to figure out how they're doing this, how they're doing that. So I couldn't talk about that for years. I didn't, and Al Berry suggested that I don't because he experienced some things too, and he had a master's degree in science. And he says, just don't talk about this, or you won't get to talk anywhere else. So, but lately I've been doing it for the last few years because other people are experiencing the same type of stuff that we were going through up there. Thinking our camp was being tore apart, look out there and nothing's changed. How do they do that? I mean, to hypnotize us uh, all five of us up there, or what? Because you don't know how they do that stuff unless it's through the vocal mechanism, and they can just make that stuff happen vocally. I know there's no telling how what the scope of their vocal mechanism is. Let's see, a Bigfoot and dogman are both Nephilim, human half. Well, I'm not sure they are both Nephilim. And it depends on your definition of Nephilim. If it's a cross between an alien and an animal or species on planet, yeah, that's true. We're all hybrids. I mean, we're hybrids. We're really good to it. Something made us. Uh, and what was the rest of that? I didn't read all. Oh, can they
Well,
interbreed?
yeah, can
I
they, if
don't
Bigfoot
know.
and Dogman are both Nephilim, do you think it's possible for them to interbreed with one another?
I think they're different species, so I'm not sure they could. I don't know. I mean,
We know that
no one's ever found them.
the fallen or the Anunnaki or the Watchers, whatever people want to call them, aliens or whatever. There's different. Um, you had the native people that when they saw the sky gods come down, they were talking about the plumed serpent, Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl. So people were seeing different things coming down from the sky. Plumed serpent, I've always said plumed. I mean, I don't. Plumed means feathers, but I don't know if it was a feathered serpent or was it the flying serpent. And if you take that biblically, then that's a dragon or maybe even a pterodactyl. I don't know if you look at birds and reptiles in the same way or whatever, but it's something to that. People were seeing these things for years, but can they interbreed, crossbreed? Well, you have some people when they see a dog man, they say, well, it didn't have that dog's tapered waist. It didn't have that the hawk style canine type legs. It had a dog's head, like a German Shepherd or a wolf's head, but then it had the broadness of the shoulder, the upper girth and upper body of more like a man, but it was more like a hairy Sasquatch, even with like the Sasquatch type feet. On the occasions that I saw Dogman, which was from 2013 all the way up to 2020, they did show up on video a lot of the time, because I started recording after that first encounter. But all the ones I ever saw, like most of the time when I saw them, they were behind the trees, so I could only see from the head, neck, upper shoulder, maybe some of the upper waist, but then the area behind the trees I couldn't see that. But on two separate occasions, I have seen them in full body form, and they had the hawk style legs. But that's kind of just to go along with what Ron was saying. But I don't know if they can interbreed either. Some people say that the Gugwe, which I guess looks more like a Bigfoot Dogman mix, and then you hear people talk about Bearilla and stuff like that. What are your thoughts? Do you think that there's different forms, different things? Are they all the same thing? What are your thoughts?
No, they're different. They're different, I think. Depends on what made them and what attributes they messed in their DNA, what they allowed them to do, how many chromosomes they have, can they interbreed or not? Because we have 23 pair, and where other primates have 24 pair. And so it's just, we just don't know. We have not got any information on that part. I don't think so. I think different species have messed with different alien species have messed with different species on this planet. So it depends on what they gave them, what attributes they gave them in their DNA structure, whether or not they could interbreed. But I doubt it. Just my opinion, but we don't know. Also,
all right, y'all keep y'all's questions coming. Also, is it true there are more audio recordings that have yet to be released to the public, Ron? Any chance they could be released in the future?
Well, I have a lot of them. We have hours of them, but what we put out are the best ones. That's all I plan on putting out, because all the others are, until you know what they're saying, is their language more complex? Yes, their language is more complex than ours. And they speak very rapidly. And if you've heard the sounds, which are on my CDs, and there are a lot of people hear them all over the world now, but I said the right thing to hear the thunder. Anyway, there's a lot more, but again, until one of them comes in and says, "Ooga ooga, that's a tree," you don't know what they're saying. You just know it's a language by the human definition of language. Research you keep it up with outside of your own? What research am I keeping up with? Mostly Bigfoot. That keeps me pretty busy. Dogman. I'm back here in North Carolina now, and it's down where I was. Gina was down in
Texas.
Tennessee. I went to the LBL.
Oh yes. Did you see anything or experience anything?
And I did not, no. But they have, and I believe them. They're very credible guys. So
Martin Groves, did he go? Was he with you guys when you went out there?
Oh, he's the one taking us around. Yeah, he showed us where a lot of things happened and why they've got a lot of the park closed off now. Do you feel the Sasquatch and other operators?
You feel the Sasquatch and others operate from spherical density mostly, yet can function in linear time. Do you also feel that we are capable of the same?
We are capable. We're capable of going all the way to the ninth dimension in this embodiment if you can reach it. You reach it through your consciousness. It's not like a stair step where you have to die from third density to go to sixth density to understand how the universe works, and then on to go to the way we were created to be ninth dimensional. What was that question? I got off on that.
I'm sorry. Well, no. Oh. So, do you feel the Sasquatch and others operate? I'll leave them up there longer. From spherical density, mostly.
They live. I think they when they've had children, and they do have children, they procreate. In fact, we get the voice of a little one recorded up there. But that's when I saw the samurai that night, and I recorded his cry. He was running through the trees down towards what we think was an adolescent and a female down to below, and she was giving him a rush because he was, I think, getting a little too bold with us humans, a little young one. And we also found some 90s tracks in the snow up there. And It's along with 18-inch tracks. So we think it's a mother and a female.
Ron,
Being a mother and an adolescent.
do you think they pick and choose who they allow to see them? Like some people, they want you to see them, and for whatever reason, the ones who have them on their property, they don't harm you. They live in, I don't know, kind of. I'm not going to say harmony, but some people do have harmony with them. Do you feel that they choose to let certain people see them multiple times?
Yeah, I do. I do. That's because of the frequency of the person. They or they know them from a previous life or something. Because these things, when they step out of our third density, time, linear time as we experience it day by day, doesn't exist anymore. So they wouldn't age like we do. But when they're in our density and they have children, my opinion is they have to raise their child in this density to teach him about humans and what to do and what not to do. So it's kind of a training ground for their youth.
Okay.
You think? Fred Beck, yeah, I read Fred Beck's story. Well, Fred Beck, to his dying day, thought they were paranormal because he followed a trackway one time, and he said this creature would have had, people who don't know the Fred Beck story, he shot one in 1924, I think it was, and he wrote a book on it. He was one of the miners down Mount St. Helens in Oregon, or no, Washington, yeah. Ape Canyon, they call it. But he supposedly shot one dead on. He knows he hit it and it fell off the cliff, and never could find the body. Well, Fred Beck, in his story, said that it would have had to jump 160 feet to have not left another track when they was following a trackway one time. Because prior to shooting one, they knew they were around. They didn't know what they were. But once you shoot at them, that's going to piss them off. And that's what happened in Portlock, Alaska, I think, when these people were having so much trouble up there with 1940s, late 40s. But they don't like to get shot.
I can imagine. And they know what guns are, too.
I'm sure they do, yeah. We always carry guns, though, and I still do. There's other things out there that can hurt you besides these things, and I'm not sure they would. I don't think the ones we encountered were going to hurt us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been so bold. But I was 29 then, and nothing can hurt a 29-year-old.
Now, there's another question, Ron. He said, does Kaiju Ninja 1985, does Ron think orbs are connected to Sasquatch, or are they a different thing? Also, are Bigfoot and other cryptids connected to ETs? What are your thoughts, Ron?
My thoughts are orbs are a form of energy, intelligent energy. And there's been people say, I've never saw this myself, but that Bigfoot can cloak, turn into an orb. They see a big ball of light after he leaves. And the Johnson brothers, I didn't see this for myself, but they had orbs falling over their heads up there when Bigfoot stuff was going on. So, yeah, they could be. I think they could be connected because everything's connected. We're connected. We're all one energy, just vibrating different frequencies. And when we get out of this realm that we're in, we'll know all this stuff better. All Bigfoot's also other cryptids connected to ETs. It could be, yeah. I mean, if ETs created these things, and they did, but they've also diluted down from crossbreeding with indigenous people over the eons. And that means they would have to have 23 pairs of chromosomes, which that means that's how they were designed. So if you see the Patterson track, it looks very human-like, where our tracks are more splayed. There are 5 big toes up there, and they're bigger. Yeah. So I just think they're different types. Some of them are more humanistic because of their crossbreeding with indigenous people over the eons.
And y'all keep y'all's questions coming, because I'm going to try my best to get to each y'all's questions tonight. Ron, we're at an hour now. Are you good for another 20 or 30 minutes, or do you need to go?
Sure.
No. Okay, yeah. I'm taking y'all's questions. I'm going to keep mine out of it. I just want to make a comment on what Ron said real quick, and on Kaiju Ninja's question. Are also our Bigfoots and other cryptids connected to ETs? What I can say, I've never seen Bigfoot. Like, in person. I've seen dogmen. But what I can say when it comes to that question, are they connected to ETs? There have been sightings of Bigfoot alongside a UFO encounter or a UFO sighting in that same area, that same wooded area at the same time, lights in the sky and orbs in the sky at the same time in the woods where Bigfoot and dogman were there. A lot of eyewitnesses, Bigfoot, dogman, and other cryptid eyewitnesses also tend to, for whatever reason, I don't know if we're sensitive or whatever their draw is to certain people, but a lot of the times you will have people who have seen these cryptids and they have also had UFO sightings, alien abduction encounters, or some have paranormal activity in their home, and it comes with the territory. I can't remember who called it the hitchhiker effect, but I do know that several researchers that I know of have talked about the fact that some of these things follow them back home. And that's why they say like a lot of times you have stuff that goes on these Indian burial grounds, stuff like that. Don't take anything from the woods. I don't personally agree with gifting them or leaving food and stuff out for them. I've heard too many different scenarios and stories for when those situations go bad. If you just think about it, and I'm gonna take more of y'all's questions after I make this commentary, but I feel like the same way they tell you not to feed the bears, you want to feed it because you think it's hungry, but they know how to fend for themselves. But at the end of the day, when you start doing that, you make them get more comfortable with coming to your home, coming looking for stuff in the trash, just like you would a bear or anything else, to the point where now this situation is out of your hands, it's out of control. You can't do anything about it. And when you stop feeding them or you stop doing it, then what are they going to do? They're going to try to get into your homes. And maybe that's not always the case. I'm not trying to make all these creatures evil or bad. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out myself too. Of all the dogmen I've ever seen, they just stood from a distance and watched. That's it. But I know that there's been other sightings, encounters where they actually did harm people. I just don't know what to make of it as of yet. But yeah, I do feel like there's a correlation. I don't know what that is. There's even been people that say that they've seen Bigfoot on a UFO. And I don't know how to feel about that right now. I don't know. But if you look at what was it, Star Wars, what was it, Chewbacca? Chewbacca was on the spaceship on Star Wars. So I don't in light of this, y'all, I promise y'all, I'm not making a joke of it. I'm just wondering, is there a correlation there that they know something back then that we didn't know? Y'all
I
keep
think
these
there's
questions.
a correlation.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, there is. I saw a UFO up there once when the Bigfoot stuff was going on. Big ball, blue light, huge, come down from the sky, slow, but just went behind the trees, lost it after that. This is when the Bigfoot stuff was going on. And so I believe that there is. In fact, the Huffington Post in 2012 made quoted a 1888 newspaper from Eureka, Eureka Times, I think it was. They said that a rancher and some indigenous people witnessed this small moon coming down and these three crazy bears jumping out of it. Well, that's the first reported UFO or Bigfoot connection that been in a newspaper that we know of. So I think there is a connection. I interviewed a guy, a very credible guy. He's a firefighter and he's hunting up in the Sierras, and he saw Bigfoot, and he also saw a UFO and watched it. This is all in the daytime too. And the UFO was on top of a mountain, which I know where it is. And anyway, I think there is a connection. And as far as baiting them or feeding them or something like that, these things have a human component. They're smart. And they're not going to just break into your house looking for food unless they're just starving, I guess. I don't know. But we left gifts. In fact, we didn't know it, but we were leaving our leftover food out for them to take. And didn't mind it at all. And sometimes we'd come back and they'd have something gifted for us. A couple times, in fact. It was kind of fun, really. But they don't do it every time because maybe they don't like your food. If you're going to gift them, give them good food.
Ron, did you just say maybe they don't like your food?
Right. Well, they're omnivorous.
That's hilarious. I love that. Huh. I heard a few people say they love bacon. I don't know how true that is, but they like gifting. That scares me. That scares me, Ron. I think if you gift them, then what? Is that like giving?
We wanted them to come back, but they didn't come back to haunt us or hurt us.
Okay.
After 2011, when I went up there, I didn't leave any food out. I went up by myself, which is a no-no, but I had a guy regular go with me, and he backed out. And so I was up there by myself. Scott Nelson, the cryptolinguist, I had been up there 3 times that summer with no definitive stuff. His batteries go dead, and things like that would happen. He just didn't have anything that you could really put your fingers into. So I had to know if they're still around. This was in 2011, yeah. And so I went by myself with just enough power bars to last me for 3 days. And it's kind of weary. I don't like going by yourself. You don't know how anybody look over your shoulder, and when you hear something, you don't. Did you really hear that, or did you imagine it? Stuff like that goes on.
Absolutely.
So I took enough to last me for 3 days, and I packed in, walked in, and I was there just by myself. And all kinds of things happened that night. I write about that in that first book, Voices of the Wilderness. But it's quite a night. But next morning, I got him left because at 4 o'clock that morning, I heard something metallic outside my tent. Well, I get into that. I'll take it the rest of the time. it's a interesting story. But I was making notes. My brand new lithium battery was dead, and I couldn't record what I was hearing. I heard the chatter. I heard all this stuff that I was wanting to know if it was still around. Well, I found out they are still around. They were then.
All right, now.
Rogue Sasquatch are the cause.
Do you believe that rogue Sasquatch are the cause of a lot of the missing people in national parks, Ron?
Well, I'm not so sure about that. Even David won't comment on that. Polites. Missing people in national parks. Who knows if they're being abducted by aliens or what's happening. I don't know. I know what we encountered up there did not hurt us. They did not hurt us. They didn't throw rocks at us or nothing like that.
Okay.
They don't like jalapenos. Yeah, we left a jar of peppers open up there one night, and they were all gone the next morning after these things came in. They were hot peppers. And,
they were all gone. Did they eat them?
They were all gone, and these things never came back that weekend. They weren't there the rest of the time we were there.
Let me see.
I don't know about citrus, so I didn't usually haul that stuff up there. They're not fond of curry. I like curry.
All right, y'all, get you more questions. I'm just trying to make sure I haven't missed anything. Now, I do want to say, I already brought up Jason Broussard's question. Now, Ron, going right into it. Y'all keep those questions going. We're going to end this in about, we're at 109. Ron is going to stay with us for probably about 15, 20 more minutes. So y'all keep those questions coming. Ron, when we're talking about, when you were out there getting the vocalizations and you've done research over the years, did you ever end up during your research and during your investigations while you were out in the field, was there a time that you ever did end up actually seeing Bigfoot while you were out in the field?
No. They're very elusive, and I think they're out of our visual perception most of the time. I think at daytime they're not supposed to interfere with you, so they try to stay away from humans because we're not supposed to have our karma interfered with. We have to respond to things properly. That's why we're in the third density to start with, is to experience life and experience things. And as we experience them, we have to learn how to respond to that experience, whether it's good or what we think bad, because nothing's bad. It's just responding to the experience with love and compassion. If somebody pisses you off or something, don't let that happen. And the more we can raise our personal frequency, the better off we're going to be when we do evacuate this body we're in. That's how I want to say that, because love and compassion is the secret to everything. And that changes your vibration.
I agree with that. And what you just said, an interesting point on that, and a lot of people probably don't realize this, and I think I came across a few YouTube videos on it, but you're saying love and compassion changes the frequency and vibration. They've even researched and done studies on a molecular level on water. When speaking love or speaking positive words into the water or flowers or plants, the plants grew more. there was a different vibration, there was a different molecular structure or molecular I don't know what you would call it, report that came back showing a difference. The different water molecules were different, even when you kind of put them on the, I guess, however they were researching it. I don't know what they did to the water, but it was showing that it was a different molecular structure with that. So I heard that there's different frequencies and vibrations in music that you listen to, or that we listen to, that can sometimes change your perception or change your whole vibration, bringing you from, I can't remember the love frequency is, but there's a different frequency for different things. Now, you had answered somebody's question earlier when they asked if we were able to change density and change into frequencies also. You also mentioned the pineal gland when they asked you that question. I hear a lot of people nowadays saying that our pineal gland has been closed because of the over fluoridization in water and the foods we eat and the environment and vaccinations and everything else under the sun. That closes off the pineal gland, from what I've heard. So, how do you feel like? Do you feel like we ever had that ability? You said we did. So, do you feel that there's a way to get that back, to reopen that
Yeah,
frequency?
yeah, we have to decalcify our pineal gland. Do it through diet, eat non-GMO foods. People 100 years ago used to have their own garden. And our culture has started providing grocery stores, and nobody knows how to grow anything hardly. And also fluoride in your toothpaste and your water. A lot of cities still have fluoride in their water. So stop drinking that stuff and start working on yourself from the pineal gland inside your head, because it feeds your heart all the time. That's the information from the universe. That's the oneness, the God is out there, and it wants us to do well. So it feeds your heart with feelings. Those feelings are, we call, are sent to the brain as a gut feeling, because your heart has a brain. So really, you got to just condition this outside brain, this outside mind that's been told all these things over the years. Change that and let more come into it and start responding to your feelings in your heart instead of the brain's trying to tell you something one way or the other. Sensors have the ability to. Yeah, I think they can disrupt electronic devices.
I
I
agree.
know, yeah, a lot of them are sited along power lines too.
Ron, how do you think that's possible for them to do that? Can you break that down? Because somebody's broke it down before. It's above my pay grade. But what are your thoughts on that? How are they able to do that?
Well, they are energy like we are, but they learned how to change their energy from matter to energy and energy back to matter. So I think they need energy, and I even got a chapter on this book right here. This is my latest book, Bigfoot Unveiled,
Y'all
and I
see
got a
that
chapter on
Bigfoot
trees.
unveiled?
There's a chapter about trees in there. How there's so many signs around when they're clear cutting trees, and trees have energy, and trees are life form, and they
Absolutely.
don't like us cutting trees. I think that had a lot to do with the portlock thing too. They were over timbering it, besides overfishing it, and that's my opinion of that. And anyway, that's messing up their. I'm gonna say something really. It's gonna sound strange. You ready for something strange? In case you hadn't heard enough already. Uh, Something
Yes.
strange. I think they can get out of their matter and change into energy. They can actually go into a tree and
Hmm.
suck the energy from the tree. Sometimes the bang you hear might not be them hitting a tree. It might be them coming out of a tree.
Hmm.
Just saying.
That's not strange to me, because I believe just the fact that these things exist anyway, and from what I've seen, I believe that they're able to do anything. Like we live in a matrix. Our world is not what we've been told. There's so many different things in this world that's going on, people don't even realize. I know, like, just even growing up as a child, or even going through school or whatever, they told us when the sun is up, the moon goes down. When you see the sun on this side of the world, you shouldn't see the moon at the same time, like they're on different sides. But like, I know I get up, and half the day nowadays, like on a regular basis for the last 10, 15 years, the moon is up in the sky at the same time as the sun. And I'm like, how is that
Amazing.
possible?
Huh?
they're gonna have to revamp this science because they've told us what they could tell us at those times. But is that, to me as a Christian, I look at it, is this biblical? Is this one of those things? There would be signs in the sun and then the moon and then in the stars. Like, everything's changing. Like the frequencies changing, the vibrations changing, the veil is being lifted. We're seeing things now that maybe they were seeing years ago, but it's like on a grander scale now, and it's worldwide, and it's more alien UFO sightings. Now the government's finally coming out and admitting that UFOs are real and that aliens exist. The Catholic Church has a Lucifer telescope out in Arizona. Well, why would you have a Lucifer telescope out there in Arizona? I was listening to a podcast a few days ago when somebody asked the host on that show, why would they call this a Lucifer telescope? Well, what are they looking for? What are they waiting for to come back? And I'm not saying anything. That's just a question. They're looking for something. Back in 2012, and I don't know if all these things like the sun, moons, and the stars, beasts of the field, all coming back at a different time for this major war that's supposed to be happening on the earth and all that kind of stuff. What are the beasts of the field? Some people think the beasts of the field are these cryptids and stuff. But I think everything is interconnected. We don't have all the answers to it, and I would love to have those answers. It seems like when a lot of researchers get real deep, Ron, to digging into it, they don't last long. They pass away in their 40s or the 50s or the 60s when they talk about stuff that's too deep that I feel that the powers that be don't want out there.
Well,
I'm just thinking about the several that's just passed in the last few years, or it's been attacked or stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's another world happening in front of our eyes today, and I think we're very, very fortunate to be alive nowadays, because we're going to see some big changes here in the next few years, if not sooner. Lots going on, a lot of things. The whole Earth is changing its vibration, because Earth is a living thing too. And you're going to see more UFOs. It's all biblical. It's all happening in front of our eyes. And you're going to have more and more of these cryptids coming out because they're here. They can materialize to let us see them and explain to us. That's the next step, I guess. I don't know about a dogman, but I don't know if they bark at you or howl at you or talk to you. Depends on what attributes they've been given by their creator. Let's see. Has Ron ever heard a strange humming feedback sound on the recording? Yeah, I have. Humming feedback sound on the recordings. Yeah, I mean,
that's interesting.
I've heard them, but recordings or in person. I don't know that I've heard it in person. I know. Well, it depends on where you set your microphone. If you don't have a built-in mic on it, set it on your recorder, you're going to get a humming sound. So
that's real interesting. That's real interesting, Ron. You said that you didn't hear it in person, but you did hear it when you went back and listened to the audio recordings. And
I just fixed to say, I set my microphone on my recorder, so you got a humming sound. So it's not like it was coming from the creatures. It was. The tapes have been studied. There's no manipulation. Al Berry, he knew what he had to do to get somebody to study this stuff. What we would do is we using cassettes. We would take the cassettes home, transfer them onto a reel so we could reuse the cassettes. That's a mistake. Al Berry didn't do that. He used fresh cassettes every time. He started them up before the activity would start and let them run. And that's the tape that he would get Dr. Curran to study. It hadn't been messed with. It's fresh, new. Trees are energy source. Amen. Yes, they are. Hi, Ron. Do you think the Bigfoot face are from another planet? I think they were created here is what I think. Some of them. They're not all the same. And you can't just put them all into one box. But some of them may have come from another planet. I don't know. I think a lot of things on this planet that we have now came from another planet. Been seeded here.
I'm with you on that, Ron. Like, there's no telling. Like, the fact to me, like, dogman, I'm not going to say that I believe it. Dogman, werewolf, I don't know if I believe in it in the way that, like, some do, like, where you feel like there's transformation. I do believe that's through certain forms of witchcraft and shamanism and shape-shifting and, what do you call it, skinwalker and shapeshifter type stuff, then yeah, maybe there's a possibility for that. But I don't know. I don't know how to make sense of it all in the grand scheme of things. I just know that when I saw that, like I've got footprints from back there when I was in those woods as well, and I know that they're back there. I've seen several things. I've seen where the trees, a living tree, a young living tree, like all the bark has been shredded off of it, like a bear with heavy claws, like tore and ripped it to shreds. It's all gone. Like off this one tree in that same woods where I saw those dogmen. Um, I haven't been back there since I'm gonna say last year, but or the year before last though was the last time I went back in those woods and actually went to go look for more evidence, and that's when I found a mound back there. And shockingly, the shocking thing about it was that that mound had two huge manhole size holes on the top of that mound. Now, I'm a person like I get scared real easy, and I wasn't even deep into the woods at this point, but that was enough to let me know because there's one side of my mind that was like, go over there and look down into the hole or drop something down into there. But the other side was like, you idiot, if you don't get out of these woods right now, because I know for a fact that they're back there. So I almost felt like I was, poking the bear.
Let me mention something here. They feed on your fear. The dogman will feed on your fear. Bigfoot will feed on your fear. So don't have fear. Try to control your fear. That's very important, I think. And if you don't, then, well, whatever you put out as far as thoughts and words, they're going to come back to you. So if you're thinking of creepy things are going to be part of your life. And that's just the way it works for me. Are we in the days of Noah? Yes, we are. John 17:21, I think it is. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also be the second coming. Well, aliens, UFOs are here. That was what happened in the days of Noah. Giants are here. Days of Noah. Yeah, we're in the days of Noah.
Yeah.
So there.
And you have some people claiming to be starseed and to have been abducted by aliens and hybrid children.
There's a hybridization program going on now. There has been for eons on this planet. A lot of hybrids are out there. Some of them don't even know it, but they're a hybrid between an alien and a human. And you won't even tell the difference. Like there's different Palladians. They're the giant 9-dimensional beings. And there's other forms out there that we're all going to have. It's going to be like Star Wars some of these days, I think.
Absolutely.
To know all this stuff. Yeah. We might have our own Chewbacca in our backyard.
Well, Ron, I got a last question, and then y'all, we're going to shut it down for the night, and I'm trying to decide whether to keep doing shows or not. I like kind of spacing it out and doing them here and there when I feel like doing them now, because I feel like it's just better for me this way, more relaxing, and then trying to get health issues and stuff like that, high blood pressure and stuff under control. But I want to do more of these shows, and I want to have more great guests on like Ron and all of you. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys that showed up for the show tonight. I will do more Q&A shows. Y'all can let me know in the group Crypto Normal Encounters. I don't know if Marquetta or Primal Cry or any of my other moderators, if y'all still listening to the show right now, if y'all can go get the link to my group real quick and drop the link in the chat so that people can join the group, all that good stuff. I do want to put more stuff out maybe pretty soon, but I'm trying to space stuff out. Like I said, I have some ideas that I want to throw out there for y'all. Y'all just let me know if y'all want to do live Q&A shows with more guests, and I can do that. So tonight, I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to ask all the questions that you wanted to ask to Ron. So I'm glad we got that in. I got one more question, Ron, before we go. And then I'm going to have you to stay backstage with me for just a second, but we're going to let y'all go for the night. Let me go drop that link real quick. But Ron, I want to know the DNA evidence. We know I talked to you about this before, and I know you already know about like Melba Ketchum's research into the DNA. Do you know on her research, what were her findings on the Sasquatch DNA?
Well, there was 108 samples, I think, that she tested, and there was some of them came back. There was a mitochondrial DNA, which is the maternal side was human. There was human. And that's what made academia thumbs down it, because they said if it was human in it, it had to be contaminated. So they shot her out of the water right there. But now, in my opinion, she's going to be exonerated because there's a human component with these things. Some of them. I don't think they're all the same. And also, there's another geneticist that went up into Himalayas with a group expedition up there. And at 17,000 feet, they found some bipedal tracks, humanoid-looking tracks of what they thought was a Yeti, but they didn't know. They took some eDNA, which is environmental DNA, out of it. And a year later, she came back and said, "You're not going to believe this, but it's 99% human, mitochondrial." Now, the other part of it, what's the male counterpart? The nuclear DNA is what's important. And that's where it gets into the alien intervention. And that's right. Oh, that's nice. I'm reading.
Also, Ron, I'm sorry I said I had one more question, but I do want to know this, and then maybe I will come back for another show on this because I love this. But Ron, the red-haired giants, Lovelock Cave, you know about that, right?
Yeah, I've been there 4 times. Yeah.
Do you think that those red-haired giants were Sasquatch?
Oh, depending on what you call Sasquatch. We're all calling Bigfoot and Sasquatch like one thing, but they were cannibalistic. And according to Sarah Winnemucker, who wrote a book, Life Among the Paiutes swept down and happened. They were 8 foot tall. They were eating them. They were cannibalistic. So they caught them all in the cave, set fire to the outside of the cave, and shot them when they came out. And it wasn't until 1911 when the bat guana miners dug down in there and found artifacts of it. But that was all taken away. It's not in museums anymore by the Smithsonian. And so you can't find any evidence of it other than they've got a lot of the cave closed off now because it's a huge cave. I was in there. And it's interesting. But yeah. What if they were? Who knows what they were?
Jim Hoffman.
By the way, my website. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say my website. If anybody wants to get anything, hear the sounds, or it's all downloadable. My 2 CDs, each of them are downloadable, and my books are all downloadable too. Or you can order the hard copy of the books. It's ronmorehead.com.
ronmorehead.com. Y'all plug that in. That's the website, and you can also order his books off of Amazon. Also, and I'm gonna.
Well, the best way is to go through my. The best way is to go through my site. Keep track of them that way.
Go through his website.
Amazon does fill them through my site. So if you go to my site, you can read about them.
Okay, y'all make sure y'all do that. Ron, give that website again one more time.
ronmorehead.com.
That's Ron Morehead.
Spelled Morehead.
ronmorehead.com. Now, Jim Hoffman, I'm about to share the link to my Facebook. Send me a friend request on there, and I will. What I'll do, I will make sure to. What am I trying to say? I'll make sure, or reach out to me on Messenger, whatever. Go to the group. Actually, go to the group. Marquetta shared the link to the group in the chat. Go back up and get that link, and then just reach out to me in the group, and then I'll reach back out to you on Messenger, and I'll get you on so we can talk about your Bigfoot and dogman experiences. And also, I'll just put my email out there for right now, and then you can just send it to me, and I'll just delete that in just a second. But if you're still out there, I'm putting it down there real quick, and I'll remove it in a second. But join the group. The link is up above. And with that being said, y'all, thank you guys. And I know y'all came with y'all's good questions tonight. Make sure that y'all keep supporting the show and the channel. And I will try to put out more shows for you guys. If y'all have ideas of things that you want us to do, just let me know. With that being said, Ron, did you have anything lastly that you want to say before we shut it down?
Just one thing. You got to understand who we are as humans, how special we are, and how important it is that we do the right thing on this planet to save ourselves so we can go on to another dimension. But know who you are as a human. We underestimate that, I think. Tend to live in a 100-year bubble when really there's millions of years gone on with this planet. a lot of things have happened. Research the Sumerian texts and Mesopotamian history. And enjoy your life. That's what it's for.
And I may even bring you back for another. Of course, I'm going to talk to you again because I've got more stuff like behind the scenes because I want to delve deep. And it always seems like when you get into these topics, it's not just a cut and dry topic. There's so many different areas like that we could have gone into when it comes to this stuff. So I'm gonna reach out to you again after the show, y'all. Thank y'all so much, and Ron, thank you for coming back for the show again. It was awesome tonight, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you.
Thanks
all
for having me.
Yes, thank you so much, y'all. We're going to tell y'all good night. Thanks, everyone. We love you. Have a good night.